My brother accidentally sent me a video where my parents called me a burden, so I gave them what they wanted. It was a typical Thursday, one of those that do not promise anything special. I was in my apartment, a small place but mine, with walls full of badly stuck photos and a couch I inherited from my grandmother. I had been living alone for a couple of years since I finished college and got a decent job at an insurance company. It was not the dream life, but it paid the bills and left me time to watch shows or go out with friends. My routine was simple. Wake up, coffee, work, home, repeat. And on weekends, without fail, I would visit my parents and my younger brother, Matthias. We were a normal family, or so I thought. That day, after an exhausting shift reviewing papers that nobody reads, I threw myself on the couch with my cell phone in hand. I was scrolling listlessly watching funny dog videos on Instagram when a message from Matthias arrived. My brother is 19 years old, a lovable mess who is always into something, whether it is missing the bus because he fell asleep or spending his part-time salary on online games. The message said, "Watch this. I swear you will not believe it," and it came with a 47-second video. I thought it would be one of his usual silly things, like when he recorded our cat chasing a shadow and edited it with epic music. So I pressed play without expecting anything serious. But what I heard froze me. The image was blurry at first, as if Matthias had recorded without realizing it. There was background noise, the clinking of dishes, of the old refrigerator in my parents' kitchen. Then my mom's voice, clear and sharp as always. If one weren't always on top of us, everything would be easier. He's a burden, you know? A load we do not need. My dad replied with a grunt, as he does when he is watching soccer and does not want to talk much, yes. And on top of that, with that money he says is his. If he would just leave, we would have peace, and the workshop could finally succeed. The video ended with Matthias whispering, "Oh, no," and cutting off abruptly. I sat there with the cell phone still in my hand, staring at the black screen as if it would explain what had just happened. My heart was pounding, but I did not know if it was anger, sadness, or both. A burden, a load. The words stung like needles. It was not the first time my parents had made me feel this way, but they had never said it so clearly. It had always been indirect. My mom complaining that I used too much electricity when I lived with them, or my dad saying that if it weren't for me, he would already have his workshop running the way he wanted. But this was different. This was raw, direct, and it came from a video that Matthias, the scatterbrain, sent me by mistake. He probably wanted to send it to his girlfriend, Sophia, to have a laugh, but it ended up on my WhatsApp. I got up from the couch and paced around the living room, trying to process it. I remembered all the times I had helped them. When I lent them $10,000 to fix the roof of the house after a storm, which they never paid back, or when I spent months putting money into my dad's workshop. A car repair business that never took off because he prefers chatting with customers than working. And I, idiot, always said yes because we are family. And now I was a burden. I spent that night awake, staring at the ceiling and listening to the noise of the fan I never fixed. At first, I wanted to call them, yell at them, demand explanations. But then I thought, what for? If that is how they felt, would a fight change? That is when a crazy idea came to me. But at that moment, it seemed perfect. If they saw me as a problem, I would give them what they wanted, my absence. And if they cared so much about the money, I would take that away too. Let them see what life was like without me. The next day, Friday, I called in sick to work saying I had a fever. Nobody asked too many questions. My boss is one of those who prefers not to get involved. I went to the bank and withdrew everything I had. $35,000 I had saved for a trip I never took, plus about $5,000 that was still in the joint account with my parents. We opened that account when I started working because my mom said it was more practical to help her with expenses. I closed my part of the account and transferred everything to a new account just for me. I felt like a thief, but also like someone who was finally taking control. On Saturday morning, before sunrise, I drove to my parents' house. I live a few blocks away, so it did not take long. The street was silent with that smell of dampness it always has after the rain. I went in with my key. They never asked for it back and left a note on the kitchen table. I wrote in big, clear letters, "Since I'm a burden, I'm leaving. Do not look for me." Enjoy your peace and your life without my money. I did not put my name. Just a quick scribble. I wanted them to know it was me, but not to have anything warm to hold on to from that farewell. Before leaving, I looked at the house one last time. The couch where we watched movies on Sundays, the table where we ate barbecue on my birthday, the photos hanging on the wall. There were good memories, but now everything felt tainted. I closed the door slowly and got in the car. I did not have a clear plan. I just knew I did not want to be near them. I drove for about 2 hours to a small town where we used to go on vacation when we were kids. It is called San Roque, a quiet place with dirt roads, low houses, and a river that runs at the back. I rented a cheap cabin with the cash I had. I said my name was Lucas and paid for a week. The owner, an elderly woman with a don't ask, don't tell face, gave me the key and left me alone. The first few days in the cabin were strange. I spent the hours wandering around the town, buying homemade bread at a local bakery or sitting by the river, throwing stones into the water. I did not use my cell phone much, only to listen to music I had already downloaded. But on Tuesday, while I was watching an old game on the cabin's small TV, the phone started going crazy. First, it vibrated once, then again, and suddenly it was a constant buzzing as if someone had unleashed a digital storm. I looked at the screen and saw 37 missed calls. 20 from my mom, 15 from my dad, and 12 from Matthias. Plus, messages were pouring in nonstop. My mom was writing things like, 1. Where are you? Come back, please. We'll lose the house if we don't pay the next installment. We're worried. My dad, more curt, sent, this isn't funny. Answer now. And Matthias, in his own way, filled the chat with, brother, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I swear it was a mistake. Answer, please, Mom won't stop crying. There were so many messages and calls that the cell phone started to freeze. The screen flickered. The ringtones mixed into an unbearable noise, and for a moment, I thought it was actually going to break. My phone exploded, I said aloud, laughing alone in the cabin. Although it was not a literal explosion, it was collapsing under the pressure of my family. I quickly turned it off before it was completely damaged and threw it on the bed. There, with the silence returning to the room and the sound of the river in the background, I realized that this was just the beginning. My parents must have found the note by now. Matthias was panicking about his blunder, and I did not know what was coming next, but something told me it would not be boring. That night, after having a cheese sandwich I bought at the village store for dinner, I could not take it anymore and turned on my phone. The screen lit up slowly as if struggling to wake up, and immediately notifications started pouring in again. More than 60 now. My mom had gone up to 25 calls, my dad to 18, and Matthias continued with his desperate messages. There were voice notes too. One from my mom, her voice breaking, saying, Juan, I don't know what I did to you, but please forgive me. Don't leave like this. They'll take the house if we don't pay the next installment. Another one from Matthias almost shouting, I made a mistake. I know. But don't do this to me. Answer, I need you. My dad did not send a voice note, but his messages were short and blunt as always when he was nervous. I stared at the cell phone for a long time, the cold mate next to me. I felt a lump in my throat, but also an unrelenting anger. Worried now? Where was that worry when they talked about me like I was an old piece of furniture to throw away? And Matthias apologizing? He did not choose those words, but he did choose to record them and share them as if it were a joke. I turned off the cell phone again and put it in a drawer as if that way I could also put away how I felt. I was not going to answer yet. I needed time to think, to decide if this was just punishment or something bigger. I decided to go out for some air, and on the way I came across an open bar. I went in, ordered a beer, and sat in a corner, trying to get lost in the smoke and the voices of the few drunks who were there, but I could not. As I was looking at the sweaty bottle in my hand, a raspy voice pulled me out of my thoughts. You're the one from the newspaper, right? I did not look up, and I saw a skinny guy, looking like a stray dog, with a crooked smile. He was standing next to my table, holding a glass of cheap wine. I saw you on the front page, the missing person. What are you doing here? Did you escape from the law or what? My heart jumped into my throat. I don't know what you're talking about, I said, trying to sound calm, but my voice came out shaky. The guy laughed out loud as if I had told the joke of the year. Don't play dumb. The whole town is talking about you. They say your mom was crying on the local TV this afternoon that your brother is offering money to anyone who finds you. Matthias offering money? The ground shifted beneath my feet. I threw some bills on the table and left the bar as if I were being chased. I turned on the old TV, and there it was, a local news report with my mom on screen, disheveled and teary-eyed, holding up a picture of me. Please, if anyone sees him, let us know. We do not know if he's alive, if he's been kidnapped. Want? If you can hear me, come back. We love you. And then Matthias appeared, pale and his voice cracking. I'm offering everything I have, my savings, whatever it takes. I just want my brother back. The camera cut to my dad, standing behind them with his arms crossed and his eyes fixed on the ground. He did not say anything, but his silence was a scream. I stood there in front of the TV feeling torn apart. I wanted to scream, cry, break something. Did they love me after everything they'd said? Or was it just guilt, fear of looking bad in front of the world? I imagined my mom crying at home, Matthias searching every corner, my dad silent but broken, and me, the idiot who started this fire. Now I did not know how to put it out. For one stupid second, I wanted to believe that maybe they really missed me, that those tears and pleas were for me, not for what I carried in my backpack. But the knot in my stomach told me otherwise. And soon, reality would slap me awake. Near midnight, a loud banging on the door made me jump out of bed. Who is it? I shouted, my heart in my throat. They did not answer, but the banging continued, harder, as if someone wanted to break the door down. I grabbed the first thing I could find, an old flashlight that was on the nightstand, and approached slowly. Before I could open it, the door burst open and a guy I instantly recognized came in. It was the village store owner, Don Raul, a fat man with a thin mustache who always gave me strange looks when I bought something. There you are, he said, pointing a shaky finger at me. You're the one from the newspaper, the one from TV. Behind him was a young policeman with a crooked cap and a look of confusion on his face. And further back, like vultures circling carrion, were my parents and Matthias. What's going on? I yelled, backing up until I hit the wall. Don Raul came closer, his eyes gleaming in a way that made me shiver. I saw you enter this cabin the first day, he said, rubbing his hands. I didn't say anything at first, but when I saw your brother on TV offering money, I knew it was you. I want my reward. I earned it. I looked at Matthias, who was standing behind my dad with his head down and his hands in his pockets. My mom stepped forward, her face still wet from the rain or maybe fake tears, and my dad stayed back, arms crossed as always. Thank God, my mom said in a voice that sounded relieved, but her eyes were fixed on my backpack, which was lying in a corner. Thank God, I repeated, laughing bitterly. Don't mess with me. What are you doing here? How did you find me? This gentleman called the police station, said the policeman, pointing to Don Raul. He said he recognized you, and your family was offering money for information. He brought them straight here. I looked at Don Raul, who was smiling like he just won the lottery. Give me my share, he insisted. Your brother said everything I have, and I want my money. Money, I roared. This is about money, isn't it? It was always about the money. Matthias raised his head, his face pale. No, Juan. I swear it wasn't. Well, yes, but not like you think. We wanted you to come back, and I thought that by offering money, someone would find you faster. Shut up, Matthias. My mom snapped, taking another step closer. Listen to me. You have to give us back that money. Without it, they'll take away the house in 2 weeks. The workshop is bankrupt. We have nothing. You can't do this to us. My dad finally spoke in that dry voice he uses when he is fed up. You gave us a needless scare, but it's over now. Bring the money, and let's be done with it. We can't go on like this. I stared at them, the flashlight still in my hand as if I was going to hit someone. The policeman scratched his head, uncomfortable, and Don Raul kept rubbing his hands, waiting for his cut. I felt the air leave my lungs, the room shrinking. That's it, I said, my voice shaking with fury. You came for the money, not for me. Of course, we came for you too, Mom said. But her eyes went back to the backpack, and I knew she was lying. You're our son, but we need that money. Without it, we're finished. And what about me? I yelled, throwing the flashlight on the floor so hard that it broke. You called me a burden. You said I'd ruin your lives. I left because you don't love me. You just want what I give you. My dad stepped forward, his face hard. Don't be dramatic, One. You've always helped us, and we appreciate it. But now you left us with nothing. Bring the money, and we'll talk about whatever you want later. Matthias tried to come closer with his hands up as if he wanted to calm me down. Brother, I'm sorry about the video, really, but listen to Mom and Dad. Without you, without your money, we are lost. I looked at the three of them standing there as if they were creditors instead of family, and something snapped inside me. Don Raul was still beside them, muttering, my reward, my reward. And the policeman cleared his throat, clearly wanting to leave. Rage surged through me like fire, but there was also a weariness I had not expected. I had wanted them to feel my absence, but I had never imagined they would look for me like I was a lost wallet. You know what? I said, walking over to the backpack and picking it up forcefully. It's over. I'm not coming back, and I'm not giving you a penny. Let them take your house and your workshop and sink to the bottom of the pit. Juan, no. My mom screamed, running towards me, but the policeman stopped her by raising a hand. Don Raul turned red. Hey, I found you. You owe me something. You don't owe me anything. I roared, and I left the cabin. The rain had stopped, but the air was cold and sharp. I looked at my family one last time. Enjoy your peace without me and without my money. I ran to my car with the backpack slung over my shoulder while my mom yelled my name and my dad said something to Matthias that I could not hear. Don Raul came running out, yelling about his reward, but I did not look back. I got in the car, started the engine, and drove off aimlessly, hands shaking on the wheel and my eyes blurred with tears. I did not know where I was going, but I knew I could not go back. I decided to go to my apartment. After all, my parents would never get the money they so desperately wanted. I arrived near dawn after 2 hours of driving with a blank mind. The building was silent, with the hallway lights flickering as always. I climbed the stairs, opened the door with trembling hands, and entered. The smell of old coffee and the armchair I inherited from my grandmother welcomed me as if nothing had happened. I locked the door, put the backpack on the floor, and collapsed on the sofa, staring at the badly stuck photos on the wall. There I was, smiling with Matthias at a park, with my parents at a birthday party. It all seemed like a cruel joke now. I could not help it and turn on my cell phone. The screen came alive, and as I expected, the notifications exploded again. More than 90 now. Messages from my mom. 1. Please, we need that money. We can't lose everything because you're angry for my dad. This is ridiculous now. Return the money and let's get this over with. Matthias. Brother, I'm sorry, but please answer. Without your money, Mom says we are finished. I was lost in my thoughts when the doorbell rang. A sharp buzz that cut through the silence like a knife. I looked at the clock. It was 6 a.m. Who would come at this hour? I got up slowly, instinctively grabbing the backpack that was nearby and approached the door.